The air was tense inside the hearing room of the Rayburn House office building. Media outlets had dubbed this day Clash of the Titans as two prominent figures were set to face off in what was anticipated to be one of the most explosive congressional committee hearings in recent memory. On one side sat Byron Donalds, the sharp-tongued, no-nonsense congressman from Florida's 19th district. Known for his articulate arguments, deep understanding of fiscal policy, and unshakable demeanor, Donalds had quickly risen to national prominence. He had built a reputation for dissecting weak arguments with calm precision, and today he had his sights locked on Senator Adam Schiff. Schiff, the senior senator from California, had long been a polarizing figure. He was a darling of progressive circles and known for his aggressive stance during the Trump impeachment hearings years ago. But his reputation had taken hits, accusations of misinformation, selective leaks, and a penchant for grandstanding. Still, he arrived with his usual confident stride, his team trailing behind him like shadows. The issue at hand was simple on paper but seething with political consequence, a joint oversight hearing into government surveillance, political weaponization, and misuse of intelligence data. Both Donalds and Schiff had been appointed as key voices from their respective parties to address the American people. As the cameras clicked and networks switched to live coverage, C-SPAN viewership surged. The hashtag Donalds versus Schiff was already trending on X, formerly Twitter, and political pundits across the spectrum were bracing for fireworks. Chairwoman Elise Stefanik opened the floor. We are here today to discuss the integrity of our intelligence institutions and their use or misuse of authority. Representative Donalds, you have the floor. Byron adjusted his mic, leaned forward slightly, and began with a calm but loaded voice. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to begin by saying that what's at stake today is not a party's reputation or a politician's legacy, but the trust of the American people. Over the past decade, especially during and after the Trump presidency, we've seen a disturbing pattern, the intelligence apparatus being used not just for national security but for political gain. And nobody, I repeat, nobody has embodied that abuse more than Senator Adam Schiff. Gasps rang out from the chamber. Schiff's staff shifted in their seats. But Donalds wasn't done. Let's talk facts. Senator Schiff went on national television at least 20 times claiming he had clear evidence of Trump-Russia collusion. Yet when the Mueller report dropped, there was no such evidence. Zero. Nada. Schiff interrupted. Congressman Donalds, I must object. Donalds raised his hand. You'll have your chance, Senator. Let me continue. The chair nodded in support. Next, let's talk about the FISA abuse. Under your watch, Senator Schiff, the FBI submitted faulty applications, hiding exculpatory evidence to spy on American citizens. And you defended that, repeatedly. Do you deny that? Schiff tried to maintain his composure. Congressman, the intent of oversight is not to assign blame but to ensure integrity. But you lied, Senator, Donalds interjected, this time more forcefully. You lied on national TV. You used your position to mislead the American public and undermine an election. The room was silent, except for the soft clicking of news photographers capturing every moment. What you did, Donalds said, pausing for effect, was not oversight. It was political theater. And the cost wasn't just partisan, it was institutional. You undermined the trust of millions in our justice system. A murmur rose in the crowd. Journalists were frantically typing. Even Schiff looked visibly shaken. It was rare for someone to come at him with such direct, fact-based precision. Donalds sat back. I yield the rest of my time. Chairwoman Stefanik blinked, almost stunned. Senator Schiff, your response? Schiff shuffled his notes, then looked up. With all due respect, Madam Chair, I believe the congressman is using selective memory and misrepresenting the facts. The intelligence community concluded, but Byron cut in once more, holding up a thick binder. I have every transcript here from the House Intelligence Committee declassified. You want to talk about what the intelligence community said? Let's go page by page. The room erupted again. Schiff was cornered, and he knew it. Byron Donalds leaned back in his chair, expression calm, hands folded. But the tremor he sent through the chamber was anything but calm. It rippled across Capitol Hill like a thunderclap on a still afternoon. Senator Adam Schiff, known for his rehearsed composure and legalistic language, was visibly off balance. His staff whispered frantically behind him, their tablets glowing with live updates from social media and media outlets. Byron hadn't just landed a punch, he'd shattered the narrative Schiff had built for years. Chairwoman Stefanik cleared her throat. Senator Schiff, you may respond, but please keep your comments to the facts. Schiff smirked nervously. Let's be very clear. Intelligence assessments were not the sole product of my office. They involved professionals across multiple agencies. I never claimed to speak for the entirety of U.S. intelligence, only to represent the findings presented to the House Intelligence Committee. The congressman's characterizations, while dramatic, are misleading. Byron leaned forward again, flipping to a specific page in the binder. October 3, 2017. Closed-door deposition. You stated under oath that you had seen direct evidence of collusion. But the very next day on CNN you claimed on air that you had seen ample evidence confirming collusion. Yet none of that was ever turned over. Why the discrepancy? Schiff's lips twitched. It's a matter of interpretation. No, sir, Byron cut in. It's a matter of truth. The chair allowed it to continue. Cameras zoomed in as Byron held up a document. This is a sworn deposition from former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper. He stated clearly that he had seen no empirical evidence of collusion despite media narratives suggesting otherwise. Yet you continue to tell the American public the opposite. Schiff's face was red now, a combination of anger and pressure. Again, Congressman, you're cherry-picking. Context matters. Then let's talk about your context, Byron shot back. During the impeachment inquiry, you claimed you didn't know the identity of the whistleblower. Yet records indicate your staff had prior contact with them. Why mislead the public? A pause. The silence in the room was heavier than before. Even the reporters had stopped typing. Then Schiff leaned back, refusing to answer. That refusal sent the story into overdrive. By mid-afternoon, Fox News, Newsmax, and even independent YouTube commentators were running headlines like, Byron Donalds obliterates Schiff in House hearing. Schiff stammering, dodging questions, collapses under pressure. Florida congressman brings receipts, Schiff can't keep up. Even traditionally liberal outlets couldn't ignore the tension. MSNBC's Rachel Maddow called the exchange one of the most aggressive fact-driven rebukes of a sitting senator on record. CNN's Jake Tapper admitted that Schiff struggled to offer clarity. As night fell, clips of Donalds holding up the binder had already gone viral. Meme pages flooded Instagram and TikTok with reactions, some adding WWE-style commentary to the takedown. But perhaps the most significant development came not from the public but from within the halls of Congress itself. A group of moderate Democrats, already weary of Schiff's role in dragging the party into endless controversies, began having closed-door conversations. Whispers spread, should Schiff be pulled off the Senate Intelligence Committee? Had his usefulness finally expired? Byron Donalds, for his part, didn't revel in the attention. That evening, he posted a short video on X. This isn't about scoring points or going viral. It's about restoring faith in our institutions. The American people deserve honesty. If that makes people uncomfortable, so be it. #accountability matters. It racked up 7 million views in less than 12 hours. But while Byron may have been composed in public, his office was in a whirlwind. Staffers were fielding interview requests from the Daily Wire, Axios, the Joe Rogan Experience, and even 60 Minutes. Everyone wanted to know, how did he pull this off? What comes next? And deep in a quiet hallway in the Capitol, Schiff walked alone, his phone lighting up with unread messages and political allies who had suddenly gone silent. But the real reckoning? It was just beginning. The next morning, Washington, D.C. woke up to a different reality. Headlines screamed about Schiff's collapse, with political commentators labeling it everything from a masterclass in fact-checking to a historic unmasking of political deception. Byron Donalds didn't just trend, he dominated the national discourse. Even CNN's morning panel was split. Anchor Poppy Harlow raised her brow as she asked, when Schiff couldn't answer whether he'd lied about whistleblower contact, how do we interpret that? The usually deflective Van Jones quietly admitted, look. Byron Donalds walked in with facts. And Schiff, frankly, didn't seem prepared for that level of surgical precision. The moment wasn't just going viral. It was resonating. Independents, moderates, and even some jaded Democrats, people long skeptical of both parties, found themselves intrigued by Byron's calm approach and relentless insistence on transparency. Podcasts exploded with discussion. Calls to local congressional offices tripled overnight. Schiff's own approval ratings in California had begun to dip, a rare occurrence for a state where he once reigned supreme. Behind the scenes, Schiff's inner circle was melting down. In a high-rise D.C. office, Schiff sat with his most senior advisors. His tie was loosened, sleeves rolled up, and his voice shook with frustration. He ambushed me, he muttered. They planted that binder on purpose. A younger aide spoke hesitantly, sir, we've been advised not to respond further. Every clip where you try to clarify ends up making you look worse. I need to counter, Schiff insisted. We'll do an interview. MSNBC. I'll set the record straight. His comms director, a woman with years of crisis experience, leaned forward. Adam, if you go back out there without proof, without documents to rebut Byron's claims, you're not just going to look dishonest. You're going to look irrelevant. That word, irrelevant, hit him like a slap. Meanwhile, Byron Donalds was already 2 steps ahead. In his Capitol office, he and his team reviewed a thick packet of documents. We've got at least 4 more instances where Schiff misrepresented classified briefings, his chief of staff said. You want to go public with these? Donalds tapped the papers, thoughtful. Not yet. I don't want to look like I'm running a vendetta. Let the media keep digging first. But I want these archived, indexed, and linked. Let's give America a digital timeline. Facts. No fluff. And so it began. By 5 p.m., Byron's official congressional website featured a new section. The Intelligence Accountability Project. A public-facing timeline that listed Schiff's claims side by side with the official transcripts and public documents that debunked them. Each entry was short, sourced, and devastatingly clear. Conservative news hailed it as the People's Dossier. Liberal blogs mocked it as partisan PR, but couldn't dispute the content. Politico called it the most effective fact-based offensive we've seen from a House Republican in years. Then came the internal blow. That same night, the Senate Democratic leadership held a closed-door meeting. Chuck Schumer, visibly concerned about the distraction Schiff had become, spoke in low tones to senior members. Adam's performance was weak. Byron Donalds has boxed us into a corner with receipts, not rhetoric. If this festers into campaign season, we're looking at a PR nightmare. So what are you suggesting? Asked Senator Patty Murray. We reassign Schiff quietly from intelligence and move him to judiciary. A strategic realignment, frame it as giving him a new leadership role. In political language, it was exile. And Schiff, despite his best efforts, couldn't stop it. Days passed. The media frenzy hadn't slowed, it had evolved. What started as a viral exchange was now becoming a full-blown movement. Byron Donalds had unwittingly tapped into something deeper. A national hunger for truth without theatrics. Americans were fed up with grandstanding, vague promises, and endless spin. Byron's style, direct, fact-focused, and unbothered, wasn't just refreshing. It was revolutionary in a town built on ambiguity. And it was beginning to scare people. In the Senate, murmurs turned into meetings. Democrats debated whether Schiff had become a liability, while Republicans quietly strategized how to keep the spotlight on him without looking like it was all personal. Meanwhile, Byron Donalds was invited to appear on 60 Minutes, a rare honor for a sitting congressman. Leslie Stahl sat across from him in a warmly lit room in Fort Myers, Florida. Her tone was skeptical, but respectful. Congressman Donalds, she began. What you did in that hearing, many are calling it a takedown. Some even say it was the most fact-dense challenge we've seen to Senator Schiff's credibility. Was it planned? Byron smiled faintly. It was prepared, not planned. There's a difference. How so? I didn't show up to destroy anyone. I showed up to serve the American people with the truth. If someone else's version of the truth can't stand next to the facts, that's on them, not me. Stahl raised a brow. But critics say you're targeting Schiff personally. Maybe even trying to score political points for a future Senate run? Byron leaned in. You know what's funny about that? Telling the truth has become so rare in Washington that when someone does it plainly, people think it must be a strategy. Maybe we should ask ourselves why that is. The interview aired on Sunday night and blew up the internet. Clips of Byron calmly laying out Schiff's misstatements, juxtaposed with actual transcripts, played in a powerful, slow montage. TikTokers dubbed him the truth broker. Gen Z influencers who usually couldn't name more than 3 members of Congress were suddenly sharing his video with captions like, "Fire, this man just fact-checked Washington outta existence." Clapping hands. Yo, where has Byron Donalds been all our lives? Brain, this is how you debate with facts. Schiff never stood a chance. Even The View couldn't avoid it. On Monday morning, the panel was electric. Sonny Hostin tried to defend Schiff's legacy. He's been consistent on his concerns about Trump and foreign interference. But Whoopi Goldberg interrupted sharply. Yeah, but when you're in that chair and you can't back your words up with proof, you're in trouble. I don't care who you are. Byron brought the documents. Period. Schiff was unraveling. His press secretary sent a desperate pitch to Real Time with Bill Maher, hoping to land an interview that could reframe the narrative. Maher's producers declined. Too radioactive. It got worse. A group of freshman House Democrats, normally apolitical in intra-party matters, released a public statement. We commend Representative Byron Donalds for his courage in demanding accountability and transparency. Americans deserve clarity from those in power regardless of party affiliation. That was unheard of. Democrats praising a Republican in writing? In 2025? Political heresy. But Byron wasn't basking in glory. He was focused. That afternoon, he addressed reporters outside the Capitol. I didn't come here to win points. I came here to raise standards. When people lose trust in our institutions, democracy suffers. If you've got nothing to hide, facts shouldn't frighten you. Mic drop. As the weeks rolled on, the fallout became undeniable. Adam Schiff's political armor, long considered impenetrable in blue California, was now cracking in real time. Calls for investigations into his prior committee conduct gained bipartisan steam. A joint letter from House and Senate Republicans requested an official ethics review into Schiff's handling of classified material during his time on the Intelligence Committee. But the final blow didn't come from an angry political rival. It came from California itself. In San Francisco, a group of progressive voters, former donors, and longtime supporters held a town hall that drew local news attention. The mood? Not rebellious, just exhausted. Look, I've voted for Schiff since 2008, one woman admitted to the crowd, but when I saw that hearing clip with Byron Donalds, I realized I'd been told a story all these years. I want truth, not fairy tales. A former campaign organizer for Schiff stood up, visibly emotional. We built our movement on facts. But if facts are being distorted even by our own, we owe it to democracy to speak out. Byron Donalds didn't destroy Schiff. Schiff destroyed himself by underestimating the American people. The video went viral. And that very night, Adam Schiff held a somber press conference in Los Angeles. Cameras flashed. Reporters leaned forward. I've served this country with pride for over 2 decades, he began. But in light of recent events, and in order to prevent further distraction from the work that needs to be done for the American people, I am stepping down from my committee assignments effective immediately. Gasps rippled across the press room. He continued, I remain committed to public service, but I also believe accountability begins with oneself. I accept the need for transparency and trust the American people to decide my future. That single sentence was replayed on every major network. Pundits argued over whether it was noble or political suicide. But the people had already made up their minds. Adam Schiff was no longer untouchable. Meanwhile, back in Washington, Byron Donalds returned to work like nothing happened. His staff received over 80,000 emails in support. Donations to his campaign surged even though he hadn't announced any future race. Grassroots volunteers showed up at his office offering to help. But what came next was even more unexpected. Byron received a hand-delivered letter sealed with the presidential crest. Inside, a personal note from President Donald Trump. Byron, your courage and clarity in standing up for truth has reminded America what servant leadership looks like. Let's talk soon, your country needs you. The message stunned even Donalds. He met with his wife Erica that evening over dinner in their home. I didn't set out for this, he said quietly. Erica smiled. You didn't. That's exactly why it's working. A month later, in front of a roaring crowd in Orlando, Florida, Byron Donalds took the stage at CPAC 2025. This time, the chants weren't for anyone else. They were for him. You Byron. 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 He held up a hand. The arena fell silent. I'm not here to announce a campaign. Not today. I'm here to remind you, this nation is still run by we the people. And when lies are exposed by truth, when performance is replaced by principle, that's when America wins. He looked directly into the camera. And if Washington doesn't like it? Good. That means it's working. The crowd exploded. In homes across America, people nodded. Whether Republican, Democrat, or Independent, Byron's name had now become synonymous with something rare in politics. Integrity.